it's time for the main event. From Casino Magic, Budweiser, the king of beers, presents USA's Tuesday Night Fights, a scheduled 10-rounder featuring the former 4-time world champion Roberto Duran.
Well, Roberto Duran has already begun to get ready for Vinny Pazienza.
Yeah, it's great to see Roberto fighting with the same intensity that he had earlier in his career. Roberto Duran, you can't say enough about Roberto Duran. He's such a great fighter. Do I think he'll lose tonight? No, but his trainers are a big concern that he may be overlooking Terry Thomas. Tonight, though, he says that he's focused only on Terry Thomas.
Well, he's also focused on the idea that Vinny Pazienza's back home watching this fight on TV.
You know, this is a very important fight for that reason. First of all, he wants to sell tickets to the Vinny Pazienza fight. Number two, and more importantly, he wants to make Vinny Pazienza think that he made a big mistake. You can rest assured that Vinny is watching tonight. He wants Vinny to have some second thoughts.
And in the ring for the 102nd time in his career. You know, Sean, last time you saw Roberto Duran, you said that you thought he looked great. Did that mean he looked great for a guy at the age of 42, or look great as a guy who thinks he's a world contender?
Well, I think he looked great compared to the other fighters who have come back, and even those fighters over the age of 40. I think Roberto Duran still plays the game. He plays the role of being a world-class fighter. He gets in shape, he gets down in weight, he looks at that appearance, that face. You just see in his eyes where he wants to destroy his opponents.
All right, when he takes off that robe, what will he look like? Well, at 164 pounds, he's been essentially between 63 and 65 over the course of the last 6 fights. He gives away the size to Terry Thomas in height and in reach. Terry Thomas bringing in, he says, the movement, and will try to use that reach against the on-charging Roberto Duran. Here are the rules here in Mississippi. Standing 8 count in effect, 3 knockdown rule in effect. you can be saved by the bell only in the last round and scoring in the 10-point must-scoring system. Champ, how do you size up these two fighters on the blackboard?
Tonight's boxing blackboard is brought to you by Head & Shoulders. Four-time champion of the world, Roberto Duran. Now that your bigger fight is cast, you play the role best when you perform under pressure. Your strengths are experience, over 100 fights. You've seen it all. And now the intensity, driven by your anger to fight best when you are mad. Your weaknesses have been known, speed and movement. Easy for opponents to get the angle. Like your opponent, Terry Thomas will try. As strengths, speed and movement, just the kind that gives the Hands of Stone trouble. With only 4 KOs, you're not a banger. Your weaknesses are experience. Can you handle the big fight pressure, and can, more importantly, you cope with the grueling pace from an intense Roberto Duran machine?
Tonight's main event of the evening, your matchmaker Leslie Bonanno, the main event and all the bouts on the undercard sanctioned by the Mississippi State Athletic Commission, your chairman, Mr. Billy Lyons. Tonight's main event scheduled for 10 rounds of boxing in the super middleweight division. In the ring at this time, the man in charge of tonight's main event, Chester Como. The 3 judges doing all the scoring, Elmo Adolph, Martin Cosino, and Fred Steinwinder. And now, my good friends, introducing the principals. First, boxing out of the red corner, wearing the blue satin trunks, weighing in at an even 160 pounds, with a fine pro career, 26 wins, only 2 defeats, 2 draws with 4 KOs. From Lafayette, Indiana, they call him Little Red. He's Terry Thomas. And his opponent, boxing to my left, out of the blue corner. This man needs no introduction to worldwide boxing fans. Wearing the familiar black satin trunks, weighing in at a fit, fighting and ready, 164 pounds. With a fabulous pro career, 92 wins, 9 defeats, 63 wins coming by knockout. A former 4-time world champion in 4 different divisions. 1 step away from a coveted 5th world title bout. Ladies and gentlemen, el hijo de la República de Panamá, manos de piedra, hands of stone. I give you the legendary, the incomparable, he is Roberto Duran. 10 rounds of boxing in the super middleweight division. Your referee is Chester.
Okay, man, you received your instructions earlier. I want a good, clean fight. Obey my commands at all times. Watch the heads and the low blows. Take hands now and come out boxing.
Terry Thomas was undefeated in his first 25 fights, but then made a major step up against Harold Brazier and lost a 10-rounder, was floored in that fight. And Terry Thomas steps out, and one thing I have to watch out for, Sean, in this one, that Thomas could be in awe of Roberto Duran. He talked about Duran being his one of his all-time idols, and really can't believe he's in the same ring with Duran.
Yeah, the first time that he saw him, he said he was about 12 years old, saw him fight Ken Buchanan, Terry Thomas did. He said, today still a great fighter. I wish him good luck, but not tonight. Terry Thomas says, tonight he's going to use a lot of movement, try to get on the side, real fast punches. He describes himself as a boxer. You know, in that Harold Brazier fight that you talked about, he said, I was doing okay the first 3 rounds of that fight. Said then Harold Brazier launched a body attack, something that Roberto Duran is notorious for.
Duran has won 6 fights in a row since his latest comeback, which is his 6th. And all his opponents carefully hand-picked, and they all possess one quality or lack of, and that is punching power. Terry Thomas with 4 KOs in his 26 wins. Now Roberto Duran, who turns 43 in June, will not show you the constant pressure that you remember as the champion Roberto Duran, when he mellower, walks down his opponents, but he does pick his spots, as Sean Fitzgerald remembers about a year ago, and can pour it on for some flurries. This is scheduled for 10, and now it is Thomas holding on and working inside Roberto Duran.
And this is a more compassionate Roberto Duran. Remember the Tony Menifee fight in the 6th round where he stepped back and he said, "Hey, ref." In the 8th round, he said, "Hey, ref, you got to stop this fight. I'm beating this kid too much." The Duran of old would have just continued pounding Tony Menifee.
But at this age, Roberto Duran surely understands the state of the boxing game today, knows he can orchestrate his way into another big payday, which looks to be in June against Vinny Pazienza, carefully selecting his opponent. And at 42, what is on the mind of Duran is just to minimize his risk and maximize the financial considerations. And he certainly looks like he's minimizing his risk so far tonight. Welcome back ringside, Casino Magic. Al Albert with Sean O'Grady, and Roberto Duran starts this 2nd round with a clubbing right hand. And he is stalking here and moving Terry Thomas backwards.
Yeah, and turning the heat up just a little bit. You go into a fight, you realize you have 10 rounds, but you want to turn it up round by round. He takes a good left there from Thomas.
We talked about Duran looking ahead, and he's in a position, as you see him here, at the age of 42, at 164 pounds, which is a few more pounds than he would like to carry. And he knows that, you know, there's no longer any kind of fights. Like, he's not going to step in with a Roy Jones or a Gerald McClellan at this point, or a James Toney. But he has an eye on Chris Pyatt, the WBO middleweight champion, and he has an eye on Vinny Pazienza. Why do you think that Roberto Duran at this age thinks that he can beat a Vinny Pazienza?
Well, I think he takes a look at Pazienza and he says, here's a fighter that is a little bit like Terry Thomas in that he doesn't have a lot of power in his punch. I know he throws a lot of punches, and he tries to accumulate, and he works the crowd.
Well,
he's a beautiful performer, but Duran says, hey, I can't get hurt, and boxing has no retirement system. This is a fight with 2 big names where they could both make a lot of money, and if Duran wins, he can go on. If he doesn't win, then he makes himself a nice payday. Duran has no fear, and you know, Duran is so good at, there goes the mouthpiece of Roberto Duran. Right on the end, Terry Thomas, not known as a big puncher. Boy, the right hand over the top, out goes the mouthpiece. Oh, what an embarrassment that must be for Roberto. And right now, I bet you Pazienza is listening in and just going crazy.
Well, I think he's going to show you his power. We'll see Vinny next week. Well, Roberto Duran, you know, sometimes is the case of fighters like Duran, always macho in the ring, that you know, you think you are what you were.
Vinny Pazienza has power, but it's not the power like the one-shot power, the snapping power that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the combinations. Now, the fast flurry combination power. We've seen Vinny take out a number of fighters. Gilbert Delay comes to mind. he does have power, but it's not that power that's overwhelming, that comes out and takes control of the fight. It's that snap fighter, that snap power that can happen anytime.
But you can see the pace by Duran right now, very slow, very plodding, and he seems to be very comfortable with this. That's not going to be the case against Vinny Pazienza.
Let's go.
27 years ago, at the age of 15, as a bantamweight, 118 pounds, Roberto Duran turned pro. Forgot something.
As a bantamweight, that was his full robe. Just a drape as a super middleweight. Another slow start for Duran, but that is Roberto's forte. He was never quick. He was never a fast starter. More of a wearing type fighter. The pressure, the pace.
And in many of his comebacks, never a kind of guy who really was into conditioning. You know, now he's staying busy. A lot of tune-ups. This is his 5th fight in 9 months. I guess he has all these fights in lieu of training. You know, he's like the guy who keeps on getting married and divorced all the time. He doesn't believe in dating. Duran just has the fights, doesn't believe in training. And you know he's going to train and get down if he can in the fight against Pazienza. Just starting to focus on that. But Duran often told us before that, you know, he's taking better care of himself. You know, he's kind of oh, and there goes Terry Thomas. He takes care of Thomas with a crunching blow.
Thomas, blood from the nose from one punch.
And that nose looks to be rearranged on his face.
Yeah, Terry Thomas looked over his corner to smile. Pete Susan's over there, West Ramey, getting the cut medicine ready. Duran could end this at any time. Duran could end this whenever he wants to.
And now Terry Thomas trying to pick up the pace.
Yeah, for Thomas, you got to plant. You can't run. You got to plant your feet and start swinging. Sometimes with Duran, he's going to be rushing you. He's going to be all over you. You can even just close your eyes and just throw your fists out there, and he'll run into him. He's on you so much. He's on you like a cheap suit.
Roberto Duran has found that the fight game is a way that he continues to earn a living against inexperienced fighters, maneuvering for a couple of big paydays. And he is going in here tonight against 30-year-old Terry Thomas, who's 126, lost 2 and 2 draws, but certainly the level of competition to Thomas's wins not on a high level.
Chester Como taking a look at that nose bleeding. You know, with the nosebleed, they normally will not stop a fight because there's really not that much danger in a nosebleed. If the eye's bleeding, the blood drips in your eye and it blocks your vision. With the nosebleed, I've never heard of a fight being stopped.
The doctor's saying, what can I do? Well, maybe they're going to just try to put the nose back into the middle of the face.
Plus they have to give the corner a chance to work on that nose. They'll clean that blood up between rounds.
Yeah, this is the biggest hand of the night. 10 seconds to go. Bombing away is Terry Thomas. Well, certainly bringing Thomas out of a shell.
How's your nose?
Well, by the nose. Crack it, I have to twist it back over. If it broke,
It's broke.
you want me to stop it?
What do you want to do? You want one more long?
It's got to cut.
And here it was. Watch for the left hook. Roberto Duran. Correct. The right hand over the top. Walking right into it was Terry Thomas. And here is Terry Thomas getting up, wiping his nose. He knows something hurt. smile on his face. Blood coming down from the nose.
If he gets nailed again, if he gets
Hurts
nailed
so
again,
bad he
stop
hit the
it.
nose. Here is the corner.
Stop it. If he gets nailed again, stop it.
Chester Como.
Snap that jab and quick right in, all right?
That's Pete Susans talking over the ropes. The quick right hand and the left hook he's asking for. Chester Como went to the corner and he said, hey, you want to go on, son? Thomas said, yeah, I want to go on. Are you kidding?
Corner says, let's give it one more round, see what happens.
Terry real excited about this opportunity to fight Roberto Duran.
And we'll take home a souvenir. Broken nose, compliments of one of his all-time idols, Roberto Duran. Probably won't let him fix it.
Hey, don't touch it. From now on, you can shake the hand that shook the hand of the man that broke his nose. Oh, heavy shots. Duran going downstairs.
When you look at Roberto Duran, Sean, what is there and what is not there anymore?
Yeah, you know, the Roberto Duran of old would be on top of Thomas earlier. He would have knocked him down earlier. Still, the reflexes are there, but they're not as sharp as they used to do. Wait, what is this? Did Chester Como is stopping in this fight?
Wow. Yeah, actually, one of the members of the corner of Terry Thomas slapping the referee on the back, saying, good move. Terry Thomas game, he wanted to continue, but with his nose cracked in that last round, and now it is Roberto Duran with a little bit of the instructional clinic. And this pretty much a walkover. The big right hand of Roberto Duran deciding that in the last round. And it is stopped here in the fourth. And is victory number 93 for Roberto Duran against 9 defeats. And now he looks ahead to June. Actually, he'll look ahead to next week to watch Vinny Pazienza right here on USA, going up against a fighter that went 10 rounds with Duran about 9 months ago.
And here is what happened. Look, Duran's even surprised, but Chester Como says, nah, that's enough. You don't belong here. You shouldn't be in this fight. You know, Terry Thomas had lasted through the easy part of the fight for him. Roberto Duran doesn't get started until after the third round. Terry Thomas upset, but because of that man, the right hand.
And once again, Roberto Duran is people showing that when they select carefully, they select carefully. All right, let's get the official time in this fight. Let's go up to Gordon Wood.
The time, 1 minute and 2 seconds of the fourth round. Referee Chester Como stops this contest. Ladies and gentlemen, fighter Terry Thomas with a very bad broken nose and unable to continue. The winner, and ladies and gentlemen, now a step away of that 5th world title bout, the legendary Manos de Piedra, Roberto Duran.
So in fight 102 for Roberto Duran, he stops it at 102 of the fourth round against Terry Thomas. Big right hand in the second, and Roberto Duran at the age of 42 going up against Terry Thomas, who just could not move in time enough to stop that looping right hand. Welcome back to Casino Magic in Bay St. Louis, which is becoming the second home of Roberto Duran, who scores the fourth round knockout. And Roberto is joined by Louis de Cubas, who will help us out in this interview. And ask Roberto about seeing that opening in cracking Terry Thomas and what looked to us as if he broke the nose.
Dice que si viste el hueco cuando le metiste la recta derecha, le rompiste la nariz.
Sí, porque llevaba mucha potencia, porque se la cambié una derecha de él por la mía, porque la derecha de él era más rápida que la mía, pero él era muy largo y se la cambié por más corta.
timed his right, you know, and he knew when they traded rights, you know, his was going to get there first. He slipped his right and came over with his right, and, you know, that's when he hurt the kid.
One of the dangers tonight, Roberto, is that you might injure something on yourself. Did that happen?
Dice que una de las cosas peligrosas para una pelea, tú sabes, así como esta, para después la de paciencia, que algo te haya pasado. Algo te pasó en esta pelea, ¿está todo bien para la pelea de paciencia?
Me falta un poquito más de condiciones para paciencia, nada, pero yo voy a estar mucho más fuerte porque yo sé, porque yo tuve un accidente en la mano y estuve un poco resfriado, por eso que no entrené lo suficiente.
You hurt his hand a little bit, you know, but before the fight, didn't hurt it during the fight, and he's going to be a lot better for paciencia. He's going to be a lot stronger, a lot quicker, and a lot sharper for Vinny.
Why does Roberto Duran want Vinny Pazienza so much, and why, at the age of 42, does he think that he can beat him?
¿Por qué tú quieres a Vinny Paciencia, pelear por Vinny Paciencia tanto, y por qué tú crees que a la edad de 42 tú le puedes ganar a Vinny Paciencia?
No es que no puedo, yo lo voy a ganar porque él es muy bocón y muy hablador, muy hablantil, le tiene que respetarme a mí y le voy a dar una lección de trompa a él. Buscar un hombre para pelear con Roberto Duran.
He's not only going to beat him, he's going to destroy him. He's got a big mouth, he keeps shooting off his mouth, he's going to do this, he's going to do that, and he's going to give him a terrible beating inside that ring. He's not only going to beat him, he's going to destroy him.
You know he's watching, Roberto. Did you divulge any secrets tonight?
¿Le enseñaste algún secreto a Vinny hoy?
No, yo estaba un poco aguantado nada más. Estaba aguantando, estaba buscando un golpe definitivamente para noquear al que peleó conmigo.
He says he didn't show no secrets. He was just waiting to hit this kid with one shot and get him out of
Yo
there.
estaba bastante aguantado porque yo sabía que yo le ganaba a ese tipo y si me iba a los días de asalto, de todos modos me lo iba a ganar porque él no me iba a ganar a mí.
He says, you know, he was just being a little cautious, waiting for his shot. He knows once he hit the kid, the fight was over, and that's all he was waiting for. And, you know, he felt real comfortable, and everything was fine.
All right, Roberto Duran in the spotlight tonight. Next week it'll be equal time for Vinny Pazienza. We'll be back with more on USA's Tuesday Night Fights in just a moment.